Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank the Lord for my salvation and that of my daughters, my wife, my parents and sisters and their families. And I want to thank everybody for praying for my cousin Dale over the last year who had leukemia. He passed on a couple of weeks ago. And I did the funeral 2 Fridays ago for the family. And many of you probably are in the same boat as I. Dale was a first cousin of mine, and a lot of times you don't see your first cousins unless somebody passes away or somebody gets married, something like that. And I wouldn't have known his wife or his kids if I ran into them on the street, really, when all this happened 11 months ago when he got leukemia. And I don't even remember how it happened, but his brother Rick and I started texting back and forth about Dale's progress and how he was, and then I went and saw him over at Alder Care in Brimfield when he was there, and through all that whole process, Dale came to know the Lord. So when I met with the family at the calling hours and stuff, I wanted to try to personalize the service as much as I could, and I talked to each one of the kids and the wife and some of his brothers and stuff, and try to learn a little bit more about what this time was like for them. And through that whole process, one of the things that I kept hearing was that once Dale came to know the Lord, even though he was battling leukemia, his life changed. Amen. And people around him saw that change in him. So when I preached the funeral on that Friday, I tried to talk about that change and what that change does for everybody, and that everybody can have that change, and that how easy it is to come to know Christ as your Savior if you just will do what the Bible asks you to do. And I preached about John chapter 3 and Romans chapter 10, and there's not anybody that was at that funeral that doesn't know how to come to know the Lord, I can tell you that. Amen. So I don't know, again, how this all came about, but the older I get, I become more and more a firm believer that God puts us where He wants us. And hopefully at least one person on that day heard something that planted a seed and they'll come to know the Lord. And I keep hoping that his family, if they don't know the Lord, they'll come to know the Lord. Because I told them, you know, Dale's up there, and if he could come back, he'd want every one of you to accept the Lord so you could see him again. But he wouldn't come back even if he could, because what he's seeing is beyond our imagination. So we're going to sing a song tonight called I Believe. I think we've done it once or twice before. And my eyes aren't that great anymore, so if I mess up a word or two, it's because I can't see this small print anymore. So we'll give it our best try.
When I see the sun rise in the morning, when I feel the wind blow across my face, when I hear the sound of children playing, I know it's all part of God's amazing grace.
And I believe there's a place called heaven, and I believe in a place called Calvary. I believe in a man whose name is Jesus, and I believe
that He gave His life for me.
I was there the day my mama went to heaven. I held her hand as she closed her eyes to sleep. And I felt the power of 10,000 angels take her soul away, to be crowned at Jesus' feet. And I believe there's a place called heaven, and I believe in a place called Calvary, and I believe in a man whose name is Jesus, and I believe that he gave his life for me, and I believe that he gave his life for